What is the key to living longer? It's a question with so many different answers. It can often be quite confusing to understand which voices to listen to, which voice is the most credible. If you listen to all of them, you'd probably have a 3-hour morning routine and you might end up being the next Brian Johnson. But luckily, there's been a study that's been going on for the past 80 years, which was created with the sole purpose of answering this question. I'd say you can't guess what the key is, but you've already seen the title of this video, so I guess I'll just jump right in. Welcome back, I am Tom, and as always, I am not an expert in any of the videos that I put out there. The topics that I talk around are ones that interest me, and so I am just learning as I go, and I hope that you are too. Now, I wanted to put this video out today for two main reasons, the first of which being this definitely isn't discussed enough, in my opinion, when it comes down to longevity and the levers for helping us live longer, and the second of which is when we get into the real meat of this video, statistically speaking, the main demographic of people affected is the same demographic of people who watch this channel, which is people under the age of 30. Now, I've definitely not felt the lack of social connection to the degree of which I'm going to talk about later, but I've definitely felt the isolating effects of technology, specifically social media, no more so than when I was traveling around South America last year, and I was often surrounded by people, but felt very isolated at the same time. Breaking this down, between 17 and 21% of 13 to 29-year-olds have reported feeling lonely, which is quite strange considering this is also the demographic of people who are the most connected digitally. And so there is clearly some sort of disconnect between being digitally connected and having that genuine form of connection. This has actually become so much of an issue that the WHO has released a global report saying that loneliness can be linked to 100 deaths an hour or 871,000 deaths a year. Causes can be anything from living alone to poor health to inadequate community infrastructure, but increasing is the focus on excessive screen time and negative online interactions. Whatever the cause, the consequences are still the same. When it comes to the deterioration of mental health, lonely people are twice as likely to become depressed. This impact also extends to learning and employment, where teenagers that are feeling lonely are 22% more likely to get lower grades, and adults who are feeling the same way are much less likely to be able to find and maintain a stable job. And both of these underscore the cost to society, which is billions in lost productivity. The 80-year study to which I've been referring to is the Harvard Adult Development Study, which was started all the way back in 1938 in Boston, Massachusetts. The goal of this study was to follow its participants throughout their entire lives to help get some long-term evidence of what helps us live longer and happier. It originally started with students of Harvard University, but in the 70s, it was expanded to follow almost 500 Boston inner city residents as well. Only 19 of the original 1938 cohort remain, and 40 of the 70s contingent. But now the research has expanded to follow the children of the original participants and their spouses. The number of active total participants is around 1,300 people. Obviously, there are a multitude of factors that help people live happier or longer, but one of the most powerful that this study found is social connection. For example, it found that married men live 7 to 17 years longer and married women live 5 to 12 years longer. The people who are most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80. And a part of this study found that those in their 80s who had healthy and strong relationships reported that their mood didn't suffer on days when they were feeling more physical pain. Whereas on the flip side, those with unhappy and weaker relationships felt both more physical and emotional pain. What this shows is that the quality of relationships is much more important than the quantity. And these quality relationships don't have to be smooth 100% of the time. Actually, some of those strongest relationships within this study bickered constantly, but the defining factor at the end of the day was whether they could count on each other in their time of need. And for me, I think a big thing to define a quality relationship is authenticity. Can I be myself around this person? And it's important to keep checking in on this because the answer to that question will change as you do and as they do. Now, I couldn't find many metrics published as a part of this study, but luckily the results back up a 2010 meta-analysis that stated that the participants that had stronger social connections had a 50% increase in the likelihood of survival relative to their peers. And I've broken this down into three main pathways. First up, we've got the behavioral pathway, which shows that those with stronger social connections are much more likely to eat healthier, exercise more, and avoid risky habits such as excessive drinking or smoking. And furthermore, close friends and family are much more likely to encourage adherence to medical practices such as treatments or going in for checkups. Next up, we've got psychological pathways, which shows that emotional support reduces the incidence of stress and depression. So for example, when you've had a bad day, do you have someone to turn to? And then finally, we've got those biological pathways. And this shows that loneliness and isolation actually have an association with impaired immune function. Now, this is first of all because loneliness actually increases our level of cortisol, which suppresses our immune function as a whole. And secondly, because our immune function actually becomes skewed due to our fight or flight reaction becoming overactive. Supportive relationships can also help reduce cardiovascular issues. The paper stresses that these pathways are interconnected, and so these effects combine and compound over time, meaning that the overall effect that social relationships has on mortality is on par with smoking and actually greater than obesity. Now, breaking down the anthropology, humans have actually evolved to associate the feelings of acceptance and belonging with a sense of security back when community was critical for survival and being alone meant you were easy prey. This neuroscience has actually stayed with us, with positive connections being processed by cortical striatal circuits, which are the parts of brain pathways which encourage people to reach goals and achieve rewards. A reward in this case would be approval from someone, such as making someone laugh. And what this process also does is release dopamine, which we already know helps encourage this behavior in the future by releasing feelings of happiness and joy. And so our ability to form and maintain these connections only grows the more we practice. Now, while it's very comforting to know that the more we practice this, the easier it will be to form and maintain those connections, it can be very difficult to flex that social muscle in the beginning. And when you consider that the greatest gain you can experience is from having a complex web of different connections, such as strong family ties, relationships, even people that you see in the gym or that barista that serves you coffee every day, it doesn't just include mature relationships, it includes new ones as well. It includes talking to people and making new friends. And this is a muscle. This social muscle is definitely something that we have to train. We've just learned how that works with regards to those reward pathways, but we still have to put the effort in to flex it. If you have not flexed it in a while and you're finding it difficult to do so, one of the ways to ease yourself back in might be to join a club or a cause that's very close to your heart. That way you've got a group of people that already have something in common that you can connect with a lot easier. Especially after COVID, where a lot of us turned to independent hobbies, a lot of us have found it difficult to flex that muscle in the way that we used to, which is probably why we've seen the incidence of loneliness rise. So I want to do something a little bit different with the ending of this video. I want you to have someone in your mind that you've not caught up with in a while. And I want you to send them a message asking if they can meet for a catch-up, or if that's not possible, just asking how they're doing. Now, you won't get a six-pack just from getting in the gym one time, nor will you experience the benefits that strong social connections can bring if you don't practice this consistently. The compounding and the complexity is key here. I'll catch you next time.